Hey guys, it's Spencer again. I'm also here with Steven. Just wanted to bring you guys another video today about communication. If you saw our video before that we posted on YouTube, you'll know that how important we think communication is, especially during this time. It's really important to stay connected with your friends, especially since you can't really get out of the house to see them. So staying connected with them is really important right now. And just being able to communicate with your family, whether it's, communicating about your fears with what's going on, or just keeping up on the daily news and things like that. So we'll go through this presentation with you as always. Again, it'll be a little bit shorter like the last one was because we don't have a classroom setting, but we're going to do the best we can.
Hey guys, it's Steven, and as Spencer said, we're going to continue to talk to you about communication today. We did do a 5 or 6 minute video about communication on YouTube, so you can check us out on YouTube. It's Nexus Youth and Family Services, and you can scroll down and you'll see a video about communication there. This one's a little bit more in depth, and we really enjoy this topic when it's Spencer and I in class. A lot of times in the 7th grade classes, what we'll do is the peanut butter and jelly, have you guys list off how to make those and see how well you can do in writing those directions for us as we follow them. And the reason we do that is because the sending and receiving of messages, so both the sender and receiver can understand it, is so important. And sometimes written messages is not always the best way to communicate, especially if you're in conflict with your parents or a significant other. Communicating in a verbal manner where they can understand your emotions and your feelings, and they can see it based on your facial expressions and your body language, and you can ask questions. Those are the best ways to communicate, especially in conflict, handling it the right way. And so when we use this definition, the sending and receiving of messages, so both the sender and receiver understand the message, that's the essence of it. Is good communication is both parties being involved in a clear message being given and received as well. And so what we're going to do is we're going to show you a video on this next slide. You're not going to see Spencer or myself. You're going to see a video from a Miss America pageant. And after that video, after the video is over, you will see a slide with Spencer on it. And Spencer's going to share with you a couple key things when it comes to listening and communicating effectively.
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries, so we will be able to build up our future for our.
Thank you very much, South Carolina.
Okay, so one of the big things with communication is active listening. As you can tell from the last video, poor Miss South Carolina didn't listen very well to the question that was asked. It kind of seemed like she had a response already in her head that she wanted to go through, and instead of actually responding to the question, she just responded with what she already had in her head. And now we see that happen a lot with people in conversations where instead of listening to the person that's talking, they actually just are already thinking about their own response, so they don't fully answer or respond correctly to what the person said. And that can be a huge barrier to effective communication. So with active listening, you want to make sure that you're being intent, you're listening to what the person's saying, you're taking in everything they're saying, and then from there, after they're done speaking, you're formulating your response in your head then.
We know that engagement with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine. That's why when you get a text, it feels good. Right? So, we've all had it where you're feeling a little bit down or feeling a bit lonely, and so you send out 10 texts to 10 friends, hi, 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 because it feels good when you get a response, right? Right? It's why we count the likes. It's why we go back 10 times to see if my Instagram is growing slower, did I do something wrong? Do they not like me anymore, right? The trauma for young kids to be unfriended, right? Because we know when you get a hit of dopamine, which feels good. It's why we like it. It's why we keep going back to it. Dopamine is the exact same chemical that makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink, and when we gamble. In other words, it's highly, highly addictive, right? We have age restrictions on smoking, gambling, and alcohol, and we have no age restrictions on social media and cell phones, which is the equivalent of opening up the liquor cabinet and saying to our teenagers, hey, by the way, this adolescence thing, if it gets you down. But that's basically what's happening. That's basically what's happening, right? That's basically what happened. You have an entire generation that has access to an addictive, numbing chemical called dopamine through social media and cell phones as they're going through the high stress of adolescence. Why is this important? Almost every alcoholic discovered alcohol when they were teenagers. When we're very, very young, the only approval we need is the approval of our parents. And as we go through adolescence, we make this transition where we now need the approval of our peers. Very frustrating for our parents, very important for us. It allows us to acculturate outside of our immediate families into the broader tribe, right? It's a highly, highly stressful and anxious period of our lives, and we're supposed to learn to rely on our friends. Some people, quite by accident, discover alcohol and numbing effects of dopamine to help them cope with the stresses and anxieties of adolescence. Unfortunately, that becomes hardwired in their brains, and for the rest of their lives, when they suffer significant stress, they will not turn to a person, they will turn to the bottle. Social stress, financial stress, career stress, that's pretty much the primary reasons why an alcoholic drinks, right? What's happening is because we're allowing unfettered access to these dopamine-producing devices and media, basically it's becoming hardwired, and what we're seeing is as they grow older, too many kids don't know how to form deep, meaningful relationships. Their words, not mine. They will admit that many of their friendships are superficial. They will admit that their friends, that they don't count on their friends, they don't rely on their friends, they have fun with their friends, but they also know that their friends will cancel on them as something better comes along. Deep, meaningful relationships are not there because they never practice the skill set, and worse, they don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they're not turning to a person, they're turning to a device, they're turning to social media, they're turning to these things which offer temporary relief. We know, the science is clear, we know that people who spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook, right? These things balanced. Alcohol is not bad, too much alcohol is bad. Gambling is fun, too much gambling is dangerous, right? There's nothing wrong with social media and cell phones. It's the imbalance, right? If you're sitting at dinner with your friends and you're texting somebody who's not there, that's a problem. That's an addiction. If you're sitting in a meeting with people you're supposed to be listening to and speaking, and you put your phone on the table, face up or face down, I don't care, that sends a subconscious message to the room that you're just not that important to me right now, right? That's what happens. And the fact that you cannot put it away is because you are addicted, right? If you wake up and you check your phone before you say good morning to your girlfriend, boyfriend, or spouse, you have an addiction. And like all addiction, in time, it'll destroy relationships, it'll cost time, and it'll cost money, and it'll make your life worse.
I really like that video from Simon Sinek. I know he covers a lot of information, whether it's addiction and the development of the adolescent brain, or how we might show other people that we are not interested in what they're saying because of the way we have our phone. I think he clearly communicates some of those points. And for us, it's really important that we help you understand that when it comes to communication, we are constantly connected. We can have iWatches, we have our iPhones or our Galaxies or our iPads, and we have FaceTime and Zoom. We have all of those things that we're overly connected, yet we're not really that well connected. We don't communicate that well. And so it's really quite ironic that we're so well connected that we don't connect as well as we need to, or as well as we can. And so when it comes to this communication, when it comes to Simon Sinek is saying, it's really, really important that we take some of those things and realize that, you know what, I'll pick up my phone before I say hello to somebody. I will have my phone on the table, or I will be on the phone when I'm surrounded by friends. Spencer and I have talked about stories or times where we have gone to restaurants and we have seen an entire family on a tablet or on a cell phone and not communicating with anybody. And one story that Spencer typically shares in class is when him and his friends go out to dinner, they'll put their phones in a pile, and whoever grabs their phone first has to pay the bill for everybody. So you're talking potentially a couple $100 for dinner if there's 8 to 10 people there. And what it is it's about being present. It's about being there with the people that you're with, communicating with them, letting them know that they matter to you, that you care about them, that you want to hear about how they're doing and the things that they're experiencing. And we know, especially right now with the pandemic that we're going through, communicating is super important. We want you guys to be able to feel comfortable to communicate with us and your peers, and we know it's a really hard time, and so communicating that might be very, very difficult. We want you to know that we're here for you. We want you to reach out to us, whether it's on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page or whatever it might be. If you have our cell phones, contact us. We would love to be there for you as best as possible. Simon does say one thing that is extremely addictive is that sending the 10 text messages saying hi, 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 because of the dopamine that it releases. It feels good, and a lot of the times that's why we do things. And when it comes to communicating and communicating effectively when we have conflict, is we really want that to be face-to-face so we can fully understand how that other person feels. And we'll actually see in a couple slides a different video of an I message versus a you message. So stick with us and we'll get to it.
Okay, guys, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about some barriers to communication. As you can see, we have a lot on this page, on this slide here. I'm not going to go through them all, but what I am going to hit is some of the ones that I think are really important. First one I want to talk about is lack of focus. Now, it can be easy to become distracted with things around you, or maybe even, like it says on the slide, cell phone etiquette. Cell phones can be a big barrier to communication, as far as people always want to try and see what the notification was, check the text message they just got, or whatever it may be. So it's very key when you're communicating with people to kind of leave your cell phone in your pocket. Stephen did mention on the last slide about what me and my friends do, where we leave the cell phones in the middle of the table at dinner. That just helps us to be present with each other and pay attention to each other and enjoy the moment. Another thing I want to talk about here is lack of interest. So someone may be talking to you, it may not be something that you're interested, a topic that you're interested in, but it is important to show that person that you are interested in what they're saying, even if it's not a topic that you particularly find interesting. The next one here is on the bottom. It's emotional state. So just kind of understanding where you are emotionally during the time of any conversation and whether or not you can actually have that conversation. It's not impolite to tell somebody, hey, you know what? I'm not having a great day right now. I'm pretty emotional, whatever it may be. You had a fight with a friend or a family member, and maybe it's just not the right time for you to be having those conversations, and you can help them out at a later time.
So we've talked a lot about communication up until this point. And so when it comes to communication, when we do this face-to-face, it's really important. And there's kind of 4 key elements that we talk about when we're doing these classes about communication. And most of these apply strictly to face-to-face communication or conflict resolution. So active listening, it really is asking questions, looking for the commonalities that are going on in the conversation and paying attention to what's happening. One thing that you can also do is paraphrase what they're saying. And the reason that we do that is when we paraphrase what somebody has said, it helps let them know that we're listening, we're paying attention to it, but it also makes sure that you're not hearing things that weren't said. So that's really, really important as well. And the second thing is body language. Body language is really important. As you can tell, I speak with my hands a lot, whether I'm standing or I'm sitting. Hand movement is really, really just kind of part of what I do, and it's a body language thing. It's hand movement, it's smiling, it's shaking hands, eye contact, posture, head nods. It might be anything like that that allows the other person to know that you are fully engaged. And I think one of the biggest things that we have on that list for body language is the eye contact. When you shake somebody's hand, you say hello, you look them in the eye, or you pay attention to them. If you're not paying attention to them, it makes them feel probably not as valued, and you wouldn't like them to do that to you as well. The third one is to keep stress in check. Ask a question, ask for clarification before responding, pause to collect your thoughts, make a point, and deliver your words clearly. That's really important when we are doing this, because what happens is we can begin to think like Miss South Carolina, and she was so nervous and she just started speaking and not really having a point in what she was saying. So slow down, take a deep breath, pause, ask a question, get that clarification, collect those thoughts, make your point, deliver your words clearly, precisely. You don't want to say too much, but you also maybe don't want to say too little when it comes to these conversations. And part of that is the fourth point. which is asserting yourself. Value yourself. Sometimes when we get into new places or new groups of people, we tend to be quiet and we don't value our opinions or our thoughts because we are afraid what others might think. And we really want you guys to understand that valuing yourself and to know your needs and your wants is extremely important. Expressing positive thoughts, but also negative thoughts. Receiving feedback, which can also be really, really hard. That constructive criticism that might come is not that they don't like you, but they're trying to make you better is part of it. But also learning to say no. Sometimes this one's really difficult for some of us. It is for me. And I need to be able to take care of myself at times and telling other people no, that I just can't do it. So guys, these are our 4 key elements to effective communication. If you think that you're great at some of these, you probably are, but we can always continue to work on these things that are strengths and find out these areas that we're weak in. That way you can work on those weaknesses and continue to get better, because communication is something that we will continue to do for the rest of our lives.
Darren, what the heck are you doing?
Excuse me?
You haven't done anything on this project. I've been working my butt off on it.
So
the problem is that if you don't do anything, you're going to cause both of us to fail.
I'm going to cause us
Yes,
to fail.
you are going to cause us. You're going to cause us to fail because I've been working my butt off. You haven't done anything.
Whatever, man.
What am I going to do now? Hey, Darren, how's it going?
Hey, bud. I'm doing all right. How are you?
Am I this down?
Yeah, go for it.
Hey, we've been doing this project for a while, and I've been really working pretty hard on it, and I've been having a little bit of trouble because it doesn't seem like we're really working together all that much on it.
No, I definitely feel you, and I just totally remember that deadline's this Friday.
It is, and I mean, the thing is that I think we really got to figure out some time and work together and get this project done, or else we're not going to do all that well.
I agree with you, and my part has definitely not been up to par or as done as it should be, and it's my fault. I totally realize that.
Yeah, no worries, man. I mean,
I've just been dealing with a lot of personal things. I'm I just wanted to relax. I'll put this up. I'll get to work tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and I've been working on this thing, so I kind of know what we're doing. So if you've got any questions, just let me know.
I'll definitely shoot you a text.
All right, cool.
Yep.
Have a good one, man.
See you, bud.
In that video we just saw, when he first comes into the house talking to his friend about the school project, he is really upset and he just starts throwing accusations about you. When it comes to conflict management, one of the first things that we need to do is make sure that we have our emotions in check, because conflict management can be really, really difficult, but there is a healthy amount of conflict that people go through that make us better and actually build our relationships once we navigate through those in a good way. And so when it comes to these conversations that you're having with somebody that has hurt you or is doing things that potentially make you upset, you don't want to go in there and say, you did this, because when you start pointing that finger at somebody, they become defensive. When they become defensive, an argument arises. You don't get your point across. They don't want to hear what you have to say because they're defending themselves. So no real resolution comes from the end of that. So it's really important that we understand conflict resolution is all part of communication. And one of the best ways that we can do this is when we have these conversations with people that have hurt us. We don't say, you did this. You can say, for the example that you see in there, the first one says, you were talking too fast. That seems pretty simple, and some people might not get really upset about that, but others might. A you message is, you were talking too fast. The I message might be, I feel overwhelmed when you talk as fast as you do because I feel like I can't fully understand what you're saying. Or the next one says, you shouldn't leave Maria out of your party. I feel upset when you leave Maria out because she's one of my closest friends. It's a whole different ballgame how we communicate. The person's less defensive, more dialogue can happen, and when that happens, the resolution can really occur. And from that conflict, you can grow and move forward as a person. I'm an Apple guy. So the iMessage, I always send iMessages, right? The little blue little bubble. These are the most important iMessages you can have, are these ones when you're in conflict. When you have these type of iMessages and you can clearly communicate how you feel, why it's bothering you, and address those issues, you can see, like the latter part of that video, how much easier and smoother that conversation goes. And you actually get a resolution that is best for both people. So when it comes to communication, you definitely want to communicate as best as possible. When it comes to conflict, use these iMessages so they will actually help you get a result that is positive for both people involved. And that is really kind of the key when it comes to communication, is that the sender and the receiver both understand the message. So if you can do that, whether it's normal conversation or conflict resolution, if you can do that, you are on your way to making sure you are a great communicator.
Okay, so in conclusion, we want to reiterate how important communicating is during this time of isolation. It's important to stay in contact with your friends and your family, especially the ones that you don't get to see every day because you can't be out and about right now. We know that a short presentation like this isn't enough to teach you all the skills that are necessary to communicate effectively throughout your life, but what we want you to do is take these skills and start honing your personal communication skills right now so that you can keep working on it and get better and better at it over time. We want to thank you guys for listening. Hopefully you take something away from this and remember how important communication is now and will continue to be. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay healthy and stay safe.